Republican vice presidential nominee Governor Mike Pence is about to speak out in Dubuque, Iowa. Right now, just before he goes on stage, he agreed to sit down just briefly with me. Governor, thank you very much for joining us. Welcome.
You bet, Brett. You bet.
Your thoughts on the weekend's events in the New York metropolitan area and out in Minnesota?
Well, we're all still reeling with a series of terrorist attacks in our country again in the wake of places like San Bernardino and Orlando. Our hearts just sank this weekend. Our prayers and thoughts are with those that are recovering from their injuries, and our gratitude is to all of our first responders and law enforcement who even by midday today had apprehended a terrorist suspect in the New Jersey and New York bombings. I just think it is a reminder that we are at war with radical Islamic terrorism. We're at war with an ISIS caliphate that is inspiring violence here on our shores, and it calls for vigilance. But frankly, Brett, I think it's clear it calls for new leadership and a new direction in the White House, and that'll come when Donald Trump becomes president of the United States.
Well, he's got a plan on the table, and we've been discussing it here, and it's pretty general. And in fact, as to what he would do militarily, he puts that off until he's already in office. Don't the public need to know more? People need to know more about what he would actually do to combat this problem before they vote for him?
Well, I think people know that Donald Trump is going to provide the kind of tough, broad-shouldered leadership that first is going to name our enemy. I mean, we have in Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama leadership that's even unwilling to use the term radical Islamic terrorism. And even today, remarkably, Hillary Clinton tried to blame the rhetoric of Donald Trump for these terrorist attacks on our shores. We understand we are in a battle with radical Islamic terrorism. We're in a war against an ISIS caliphate. And Donald Trump, in that Youngstown, Ohio speech, which any of your viewers can go online and read, laid out a strategy for rebuilding our military, marshaling the resources of this country, pulling together our allies, including moderate Arab countries, and hunting down and destroying ISIS and its ability to project force outside of that war zone or to inspire violence against our citizens.
In light of that, Governor, I'd like to ask you about some things that former Defense Secretary Bob Gates, a man who has served administrations, both Republican and Democratic, and for quite a long time, had to say about Donald Trump on national security, in which he said, I believe Mr. Trump is beyond repair. He also said he was unqualified and unfit to be commander-in-chief. Governor Pence, you know Bob Gates. What do you think of him?
I do. Look, I got a lot of respect for Bob Gates' service to this country in various administrations, but he's just flat wrong about Donald Trump. And he doesn't know the man as I do, or as anyone who knows him knows that he's going to provide the kind of strong, clear-eyed leadership that's going to be ready on day one to change the direction of this country. I mean, we're dealing with an administration that today, as your viewers heard, said that we're in a narrative fight. We're in a narrative battle. No, we're in a war against radical Islamic terrorism. Donald Trump knows that. And we also know, Secretary Gates can have his opinion, but he was part of the Obama administration's decision to precipitously withdraw all of our forces from Iraq at the end of 2012 that created the very vacuum in which ISIS was able to rise up and compromise vast areas that have been won by the American soldier.
May I take it from your statement, do you have a lot of respect for Bob Gates, that you don't believe that he's an absolute clown, as your running mate said over the weekend?
I think Secretary Gates is just flat wrong about Donald Trump.
But what about clown?
He was an equal opportunity offender. He was critical of Hillary Clinton as well. But Brett, look, this is not about semantics. It's about policies. And I can tell you, Donald Trump's going to be ready on day one to change the direction of this country from an administration that is too worried about political correctness, who thinks that we're in a narrative fight and a narrative battle. And he's going to marshal the resources of this country, rebuild our military, pull together our allies, including moderate Arab countries, and we're going to hunt down and confront ISIS, destroy them at their source, and we're going to have a long-term project of defeating radical Islamic terrorism. You can't defeat something you're not willing to name, and Donald Trump, as commander-in-chief and as president, will name our enemy. He'll confront it without apology, And that's exactly the kind of leadership we need after the troubling weekend, another series of terrorist attacks across this country. We have to change direction in America. We can make America safe again, but it's going to take new leadership with a new direction and new determination, and that comes when Donald Trump becomes president.
Let me ask you a couple of questions. Some conservatives, whom I'm sure you know, many actually, have resisted Donald Trump and do so to this day. And there's some very vigorous debates going on, not to say bitter arguments going on among them about the future of the conservative movement, whether Mr. Trump succeeds or fails in his quest for the presidency. What do you think happens to the conservative movement here? First, what do you think happens if he wins?
Well, Donald Trump is running on a common-sense conservative agenda, Brett. I'm proud to stand with him in his commitment to do like Ronald Reagan did, to rebuild our military, to have America standing tall in the world again. He's committed to lowering marginal income tax rates, rolling back red tape, repealing Obamacare, and lowering business taxes so we can compete in the world, much in the way that Ronald Reagan did and John F. Kennedy before him. And Donald Trump is committed to making appointments to the Supreme Court of the United States in the tradition of Justice Antonin Scalia. That is, from our judiciary to our tax code to America's strength in the world. That's a broad-shouldered conservative agenda, and I couldn't be more proud to stand with him. And frankly, here in Iowa, where we're seeing a strong momentum in our campaign developing, we're seeing it all over the country, the momentum that's showing up in many of the polls. I think more and more Republicans, independents, and many Democrats are seeing that Donald Trump is the right leader at the right time for America, and I expect that number to continue to grow.
Governor Pence, you're kind to take the time with us. You make a good case for Donald Trump, and thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Great to be with you from Iowa.